Hey y'all, Taylor Lauren here. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about my life as a beauty queen, as a wife, and as a mama. If that content interests y'all, then just keep on watching. Y'all, right now, I just dropped Blair off at school this morning. I'm in the parking lot of Once Upon a Child waiting for them to open. I have some things that we need to put on consignment. Blair has outgrown a lot of her clothes. She's basically in 3T now. She turned 2 in November. And she's kind of tall for her age, so she's pretty much in majority 3T now. So have some clothes that we need to get rid of. So I'm waiting on that, and we're waiting for the store to open. So I figured, hey, I need to get caught up on March filming and go ahead and start filming for April. So today is today is March 12th that I'm filming this, and it's gonna post next week on the 25th. And y'all, today's video, I just gotta reflect and release because life has been lifing. Life has been lifing, and I have been hanging on by a thread, and I've had so many moments where I have felt like I was just about to become undone. So here, this video is going to be life has been lifing. I'm going to update you guys on my egg retrieval surgery as an egg donor because that is done and it went really well. So let's get started. Hey y'all, so I'm basically going to be recapping all of February for y'all. So at the beginning of the month, so let me start with the egg retrieval thing. So the last part that I left off on my experience as an egg donor, part 2, my egg retrieval got postponed from January to February because the facility's OR wasn't ready. So I had to stop the medications. I had to wait about 2 weeks for my cycle, and then I got back on birth control at the beginning of February and started taking my fertility injections around mid-February and had my egg retrieval surgery late February, the 28th of February to be exact. I also turned 30 last month on February 10th. And a week before my 30th birthday, my mom had a stroke, y'all. Now she is good. She's in recovery. She's back home, but she was in the hospital for about a month, and it was just the scariest most out of body experience, face-to-face moment with life and death that I have had outside of giving birth to Blair. And I feel like that me having Blair and my mom having a stroke are just really okay. Having a stroke, my mom having a stroke, me having Blair, and my miscarriage have been by far the 3 most traumatic experiences in my life. Well, having Blair wasn't like totally traumatic, but the most like dig deep, spiritual, soul searching, this is life or death, I don't know how it's gonna go type of moments. Where I have really had to just kind of dig deep and go into like this inner shell, inner place, and just really be like one-on-one with God. And y'all, it was so hard. It was so scary. And like I just didn't know if my mom, my mom is my mom. She's always been here, and I'm like, I was literally thinking like, okay, I'm about to turn 30 and my mom won't be here with me to celebrate. She's celebrated every birthday with me. And just having to like face the reality of, okay, my mom, every day with her being in ICU, just coming to terms with the fact that, okay, my mom may not be here. Just having to come to terms with that reality and accept that possibility. And obviously, like, I was doing my best to be optimistic and prayerful and trusting and content and at peace. But I feel like it would be very dumb of me to not um see that reality as a possibility of like her not being here, because I've seen so many people lose so much, and I have loved ones where they have really lost a lot and have gone through a lot of trauma, and I've been with them in the beginning and middle of their grief. I'm not going to say the end because I don't think grief ever really ends. I think it comes at you in waves. And it would just be really dumb of me, having seen people go through similar experiences and similar loss, and just like wipe that from my mind completely. So anyway, my mom has a heart condition. She has basically early onset heart failure. She was born with a heart murmur. Her heart she just hasn't had the best heart. And my mom is like the healthiest person that I know. She went vegan like 2 years ago, kind of when her heart issues were escalating. She did female bodybuilding when I was younger. She's the daughter of a hog farmer, but my mom does not eat. When we were growing up, before she became vegan, she always ate healthy. It was always chicken and fish. She never ate beef or pork. She would allow us to have it every now and then, but she didn't cook it in the house and she didn't eat it. Our treat, I remember every Sunday after church when I was younger, we would go to Waffle House, and that was our treat, my brother and I, to get like a sausage patty, and that was like the only pig or cow that we consumed for the week, and we looked forward to our sausage patty. But yeah, cows and pigs were like a treat in our house. And we could eat it like when we went to other people's houses or for our like weekly Waffle House trip after church. But my mom didn't cook it. She's literally like the healthiest person that I know. She does her water aerobics, she travels, she walks a lot. My family and I have done the Peachtree Road Race here in Atlanta every year since I can remember. She's just very healthy. So I think that just goes to show, like, obviously you want to be as healthy as possible, but things are like never fully in our control. And there are people who, you know, have bad lifestyle habits who end up in the hospital, people who have bad lifestyle habits that don't end up in the hospital at all, and people that have, you know, the best lifestyle habits and still end up sick. And yeah, I got a call from my dad and my aunt, February 3rd, that Saturday, saying that my mom was being taken to the hospital. And at first, I was just kind of like trying to wait. I didn't know what to make of it because my mom has had some episodes before where she's had like muscle spasms and like couldn't feel her leg, or she has gotten worked up and she's like passed out and has had to be taken to the hospital. She's just, you know, like having like spells here and there. And then there was even one time where like she just wasn't answering her phone, and like me, my dad, and my mom's sister, one of her sisters, were like her 3 points of contacts, like her emergency contacts, and none of us could get in contact with her, and we got really worried. And she was at home taking a nap and her phone had died. So I was trying like not to worry as much. But then I got another call that I needed to go to the hospital. My dad called me and told me that something had happened to my mom. They didn't know what, and that they were going to the emergency room. And then my aunt called me and told me that I needed to go. And we still didn't know what had happened. And I got to the hospital, and we were waiting for a while in the ER waiting room, and the doctor called us back and told me that my mom had had a stroke, that they could not assist her in ER, and that they were flying her by helicopter to Piedmont, Atlanta for brain surgery. And my first thought was, brain surgery? Brain surgery? Like, what has happened. And y'all, it was so scary because I'm like, who survives brain surgery? Like, it has to be like serious for her to have brain surgery and be flown out by helicopter. My mom hates heights. And I just had to have a moment where I was just bawling because I was like, I don't know if my mom is gonna make it. And so the helicopter was like 10 minutes away, so they let us see her, me, my dad, and my brother, before they flew her out. So I was able to see my mom before they flew her out, and I was really, really trying to hold it together. And the thing is, my mom, she's had this heart condition. Her heart has been weak for a while. So what I am very grateful for in this process is because my family, because we've seen people lose loved ones and lose things so suddenly and have loss and grief hit them in an instant. My mom and I are very type A. So we have ongoing conversations about what she would want to happen, what she would want in place, where things are, you know, accounts for bills, how she would want her funeral. We are constantly in discussion about cremation or burial because I'm trying to convince her to let me cremate her. She is an organ donor. Both of us are organ donors. So I'm trying to convince her to let me cremate her remains instead of a burial. Because I just feel like it's useless and a lot of money to be put in the ground. Like, I really want to cremate her and turn her into a tree. She has this bamboo tree at home that she loves and that she cares for. Like, my mom is a total plant lady, and I wanted to cremate her and put her ashes in that bamboo tree, and that way my brother, my dad, and I can divide it. But anyway, so I was able to see my mom, and I spoke to her before they put her in a helicopter, and I told her, I said, I'm not ready for you to be gone, but they're about to put you on this helicopter, and if something happens between them putting you on this helicopter and you getting to surgery, and if you feel like it's time for you to go, I want you to be at peace and do what you have to do in your spirit, Mom. I said, I'm not ready, but I don't want you to have to suffer. I don't want you to feel like you have to hold on to something that you can't hold on to. Whew. And my mom had just had this stroke, so her face was drooping. She couldn't really like turn or move, and it was just, it just sucked seeing her like that. It really, really sucked. And she moved over towards me as much as she could, and she said, I'm not ready either. I'm not going to die. And that was all I needed to hear from her, because I think when people have these life or death experiences, I think the will to live is so important for that person. And no matter how much love and support you have around you, if you feel like it's time for your spirit to go, then it's time for your spirit to go. And if you don't want to stay here, then the support doesn't matter. So that's all that I needed to hear from my mom. She told me that she wasn't gonna die, that she wasn't ready, that she was gonna fight, and that's all I needed to hear. So they put her on the helicopter, and at this point, everyone that was at the hospital, me, my dad, my brother, my aunts, my uncles, my mom's best friends, we're all leaving to go to the hospital. So I go home, shower. Corey was at home aboard. I go home, I shower, I pack a bag because I don't know if I'm gonna need to stay or whatever. I go home, go to take a shower, and head out to the city. And by the time I get there, my mom is already out of surgery and recovery, and they're just like trying to get her comfortable. So we're waiting because we don't when I first got there, it was probably maybe like 10 minutes before the doctor came out. And at that point, he was like, okay, she's already been in recovery for like 20, 30 minutes. So it was a quick surgery by the grace of God. And at that point, we're just kind of waiting because we don't know if she made it in time. Because, and as I'm going to the hospital, as I'm like going through the elevator and you know, just maneuvering my way through the hospital, I'm seeing all of these like flyers about stroke and how, you know, every minute after a stroke, 2 million brain cells die, and timing is the most important, and looking for the signs. And I'm like, okay, God, is this a signal? Like, what are you trying to tell me? Every flyer that I was seeing was like time. You know, be aware of the time, call as quickly as possible. Time is the most important thing after a stroke, getting the person to the hospital, getting the medical help, yada yada yada. So looking back on it, I think that was God's way of like reassuring me that, you know, he was in control of time, that time was on our side, that my dad got my mom to the hospital in time. And so we're waiting for the doctor to come out because we don't know if she's made it, if the surgery went well, what have you. So he comes out like 10 minutes after I get there. All of my other family is there. My best friend comes, who's like a sister to me, comes in shortly afterwards with her husband. And the surgeon tells us that it went well. And she's in recovery and she's resting, and we'll be able to go see her in like 15-20 minutes. So that was a relief. And essentially what happened is my mom had some clots on her heart, like clots, and some pieces of them broke off and like floated away and, you know, clogged her vessels and oxygen to her brain and caused her stroke. There are a few different types of strokes. I cannot remember exactly which one that she had, but the stroke happened on the right side of her brain and affected the left side of her body. So for a while, she was, I guess, paralyzed on her left side. So we were able to go back there and see her. She was sleeping. She wasn't moving. And they initially told us, okay, like, her left side is our point of concern. We have to get that back moving and working. And she was obviously, like, out of it. They were waiting for the sedation, the anesthesia to wear off. And we stayed back there maybe for, like, an hour. I remember getting home at, like, 2 in the morning. And before I left, I could see my mom, like, wiggling her right fingers. So I went home, got some sleep, and was just there every day, taking off work, just there every day. And long story short, my mom was in the ICU for maybe like 2 weeks, and then she was moved to the cardiac floor like 2 weeks later. And now she's been home for almost 2 weeks. And we're approaching the end of March, and it has just been like so scary and so difficult to balance because I'm trying to be a good daughter while also being a good wife and mom, and making sure that like my house is in order. Still, I haven't been cooking, but trying to make sure that there's like TV dinners at home, and it's just all kinds of stuff. Just balancing those 3 roles. And the hardest part about getting older is seeing your parents get older, seeing the people that raised you get older, people that were invincible to you as a child. They're getting older, and health conditions are arising, and their bodies are failing them, and it just it's a lot. It's a lot. And I never thought my mom would have a stroke. I didn't. And if something like this happened, like my daughter is 2, I would at least have thought that like my parents wouldn't have like rising health issues until Blair was like 10 or something. You just think that you have so much more time. And now I'm in this caregiving role for my mom with my dad, and it's just balance. I'm living at my home part-time. I'm at my parents' house part-time. Blair and I have clothes and like 2 of everything at my house and my parents' house, and just managing my time. And it's just been difficult and hard. But I will also say my parents will be married for 30 years this year in September, and when my mom was in the hospital, my dad did not leave her side. He stopped everything, and luckily my dad is an entrepreneur, so he has the flexibility to do that. But I have just been so in awe of seeing their marriage and their vows truly in action during this time, for better or worse, in sickness and health. And my daddy has been taking that literally, and I'm just so proud to be their daughter and to be a product of their marriage, because my dad has stood by my mom. He has not left the hospital. He was changing her and bathing her, just giving her so much delicate care and love, like she was a newborn baby, and just loving her endlessly and sticking by her side and not leaving the hospital. My dad, if he left during the day for work, he always came back, and he slept at the hospital every night that my mom was there. He was with her. And it's just been beautiful to have a front row seat to how they have conquered this, how their marriage has been conquering this. And it's just been beautiful, and I can only pray that Corey and I have the same. And whew, y'all, it's been a lot. And on my 30th birthday, before we went to dinner, I went to see my mom, and that was just another like bout of emotion. And then y'all, in the midst of all of this happening, I'm preparing for my egg retrieval. So I'm on all of these hormones, and I'm super hormonal and emotional, and I'm trying to hold it together. But yeah, that has just like been my life for the past 4 weeks. And now my mom is in recovery, and she's at home, and she has full mobility of her left side again by the grace of God. And it's still a little weak, but she can still move, and her drooping has subsided, and she's talking, and she's not completely the same, but she's here, and we're just still navigating this new normal. We're now in the process of like going back and forth with doctors' offices and medical teams, trying to get her physical therapy and trying to get a home aid for her, and that is just a whole nother thing. And I'm like, every other day, like, I'll spend 2 days at home, 2 days in my parents' house, 2 days at home, 2 days in my parents' house, and just going back and forth, and trying to build a new family schedule, and making sure that my mom is entertained, that she still has like some sort of baseline for independence, because both of my parents still work full time, and this lack of independence and asking for help is very new for my mom. She's struggling with it a little bit. And then just like with me and my family, like my parents live like 30 minutes from us, and my mom was like a go-to babysitter. So now Corey and I are in discussion about, okay, maybe we should like try to find like a sitter for Blair, like a college student or something, like when we have to go out, or like when we want to do date nights and things like that, because my mom can't do it right now. So y'all, yeah, I think of all of this, I have just learned to like explore every possibility and do my best to be content with it, and to just value now and be prepared, and do your best to be prepared for any and everything. While my mom was in the hospital, like, bills were due. We were communicating with people. As the oldest child of my parents, I was, on oldest child duty, keeping everyone updated on my mom's progress, answering her phone calls, and checking her emails, checking her voicemails, and all of that kind of stuff. And there were a few pieces of information that I needed that I didn't have, but because my mom and I have been in discussion for the past year or so since she has had this heart issue, I think it just adds to grief when someone gets sick or you lose someone suddenly, and you have to worry about what their final wishes were, and you have to figure out their passwords and their accounts for bills, and what was paid off and what was, on payment plans, and just trying to get into that person's shoes. But because my mom and I have been in conversation, and because she's had, separate conversations about things with my dad, when she was resting, when she was like not able to communicate when she first had her stroke, when she was in ICU, it wasn't that difficult for us to get things in order because my mom had given me accounts beforehand. It wasn't difficult for us to decide what she would have wanted if she would not have made it because we were in discussion about those things. So even if your loved ones are well, people can be dead and gone tomorrow. And if you're a parent, if you have adult children, whatever, have something in place. Like Corey, like my dad didn't know how my mom had the accounts and bills set up, but that's information that she had told me. And Corey and I have a shared spreadsheet of our bills, our due dates, the accounts and passwords or whatever. So if anything were to happen to either of us, even though we're young, even though we're 30 and we've been married 3 years, like even though we're fairly young, anything can happen to anybody. And you want to have things in place to where your loved ones can access your life essentially, so nothing gets out of order. And I'm very grateful that my mom and I prepared in this way, because that our family prepared in this way, and that there were things that she knew I could take care of, and things that she delegated to me, and things that she delegated to my dad. And then me and my dad could come together. What information do you have? This is information that I had while my mom was in the hospital. And it was one less thing that we had to worry about, and we could just focus on her. And there are some things now that I have to transition into to assist my mom with the rental properties that she manages in our family business and things like that. But I'm just glad that it's something that we have been in conversation about, and something that I have been able to mentally prepare for, because we've been talking about it. So I'm very grateful for that. And I have been going through, like, I have literally been like holding on by a thread, but I'm grateful. I'm blessed. I'm tired, but I'm grateful, and I'm blessed. And I love my mom. And I'm glad that she's still here, and that she's in recovery, and that she's a fighter. My God, I'm glad that my mom is a fighter, and that she had the desire and the will to live and to fight. And that we have her here for a little while longer. So that was everything on that end, y'all. In the midst of all of this, like I said, I was doing my egg retrieval, so I was just like really hormonal and emotional. And looking back on it, I'm not really sure what part was really me and what part was the injections. But it went really well. Birth control went well. Injections went well. Like 2 days before, my hormones injections really ramped up. And 2 nights before my egg retrieval, I had to take these 2 like big pills to, like, I guess soften my cervix or my uterus or whatever. And then I had to take something called a Lupron trigger. And y'all, that Lupron trigger was triggering me, okay? As soon as I took it, I felt like I was in labor. Like, it literally had me contracting, y'all. And by the time 2 days later, by the time it was time for us to go to the facility, to the clinic, for me to have my egg retrieval, I was literally like tumbled over and like pausing for these contractions. And these contractions were happening like every 5 minutes. Like, they started out so quickly. It was very similar to my labor with Blair. And it was just, I was kind of out of it, because I was like, there's no way I'm feeling this and there's not a baby inside of me, y'all. Like, it mimicked my labor so similarly. And I'm not sure if that's all in my head, because I know what it has felt like for my body to have a baby. But I don't see how people do this who haven't given birth before and like not be crazy. Because it was so similar to my birth with Blair. And the facility was nice and clean and quiet. And they took me back. They gave me and like a Tylenol IV for the pain, and knocked me out with the anesthesia. And the doctor was very nice. There were all ladies in the operating room. It was 3 of them. I vividly remember, like, one of them, like, her little cap was like cheetah print, and I was like, oh, I love that. And they were playing Kelly Clarkson in there, and I was like, oh, I can get with this. This is going to be great. They gave me some delicious cranberry juice afterwards. And I donated 32 eggs. And I am very happy, very proud, very kind of like, in a weird way, solidified in my fertility, especially after having experienced a miscarriage. And it was just a great experience overall, outside of those like last 2 drugs that I had to take that were really like having my body do what it needed to do. It was a great experience. They said they would contact me in about 8 to 12 weeks after like all of my labs get back and I recover and everything, to see if I want to do it again. You can donate eggs up to 3 times in your lifetime. I would do it a second time. I don't think I would do it a third, but I would definitely do it again. It was a great experience, and I just felt very fulfilled and good about myself, and what I've been able to do for other families. And yeah, now the recovery period, day 1.5 was very hard. Like after it happened, they were like, bed rest, no working out, whatever. I think my donation cycle was on a Tuesday. I did go to Pure Barre on Thursday, but I did Pure Barre Align, which was my first time doing Align, and I loved it. I think I'm going to alternate between Classic and Align. But if I would have done Classic, I think I would have been out of it. But the first like day and a half, it was rough. Like I literally felt like I had a baby. Like it was hard for me to walk. I was tender. I was very crampy. So I was on bed rest. And then the next morning, I immediately felt better. Like the swelling had gone down. I wasn't as tender. Yeah. All in all, it was great. All in all, it was great. My recovery time was great. Yeah, I just, was on bed rest and, rested and things like that. And yeah, it was good. My money came immediately, like within 24 hours, so that was good. So we were able to distribute and set that aside the way we wanted to. And yeah, y'all, I mean, all in all, it was a great experience. I would definitely do it again. My care, I feel like, was impeccable. It was a great experience. All of the nurses were communicative. I felt respected. I felt valued in the space. It was really good. And then just like kind of circling back to my mom and like the whole experience with that, it was just, it was just really stressful. Just all of this happening at one time, and then just going back and forth from the hospital every day. Like I'm glad that the egg retrieval happened when it did, because when someone is sick and in the hospital, you're not thinking about anything except their recovery and spending time with them. And for me, that showed up in a very like financial way. Just the money on gas to and from the hospital, the money for parking, the money on food to eat while I'm there caring for my mom. It was just a lot. And oh yeah, I'm just grateful to God. I can't say it enough. I'm just grateful. This has probably been like the most stressful month of my life. And like I said, this was like the biggest moment of trauma for me. And I'm grateful that I haven't experienced a lot of trauma in my life. In retrospect, my life has been like pretty sheltered and blessed, and I have not, like, these points of trauma are literally like the only ones that I have. I don't have any like childhood trauma or anything. So I'm glad that I have the emotional capacity, or that I'm like aware of the emotional capacity that I need to have. And I'm just grateful to God. I'm grateful for my support system. I'm grateful for the timing. I'm grateful that my mom is still here. I'm grateful that she made it. Oh, y'all, it has just been a lot, and it's still a lot. Just transitioning into this caregiving experience is a lot. So yeah. Also, with my egg donation recovery, I did get my cycle back within like a week of the surgery. So I feel back in balance and everything is going well. I'm just kind of like going back and forth between these two experiences as things come to mind. I'm sorry if I seem like all over the place, y'all, but yeah, I think that's it. I just kind of like wanted to update y'all because I feel like I haven't filmed in such a long time, but also I'm grateful that I do batch film within this process because um when this whole thing was happening with my mom, she had her stroke at the beginning of February. So I was already in process of filming for March for this month. I just wasn't able to film this video the last week. The I have a video come out once a week, so I wasn't able to get to the last week of March. This video was actually supposed to be something else. And I'm just glad that I'm glad that I'm a type A person that has routines and schedules, because if I didn't batch film, that I would be racking my brain around like my social media content and stressing out about that. But I'm glad that I only have one video for March left to film, this one, and then I'm still on schedule for April, because I batch film like the month that I'm filming the last week of the previous month. So the last week in March, I will batch film for April. So I'm glad that I was prepared in that way, that I didn't have to worry about like my content and social media and YouTube goals, that was already done because I batch film a month ahead. So, and I can only imagine like other influencers or like entrepreneurs going through like a similar situation. Like, pre-plan, y'all, just batch film. It will save your life. And if something comes up, you won't have to worry about it. So yes, y'all, that is everything for me for this video. I know it's long, I know it's chatty, but I just had to like reflect and release, because when I tell y'all it has been a month, it has been a month. And again, I'm grateful to God because I'm seeing the light, and I'm seeing the strength and the peace and the contentment that's coming out of all of it. I'm seeing the testimony of it all. I'm like deep into like stroke awareness and heart transplants and everything like that, because at the end of the day, that is the goal for my mom. She wants to get on the heart transplant list. She doesn't want to get the LVAD. And like, my mom has always been an organ donor. When I got my license, she encouraged me to be an egg donor, or not an egg donor, an organ donor, even though I'm both now. So I'm very grateful for other donors, and hopefully in due time my mom will be able to get a heart transplant and it'll go well. But if it doesn't, I am understanding that God has a plan, and I have had 30 amazing years with my mom, and if that time gets cut short before I want it to be, if God has a different plan, obviously I'm wanting to be optimistic and prayerful that my mom lives a long, healthy life, that she gets to see Blair grow up and graduate high school and go off to college and be a great grandmother and all those types of things. But I don't know, and I have to be content with whichever way it goes. And if it goes the other way, I've had 30 amazing years with my mom, and that's more than most people can say. I have a great relationship with my mom. My mom is amazing. She's always been so supportive and non-judgmental and loving and kind and caring and just there for any and everyone. And she is truly a woman of grace, and she has always led me by example. And I'm grateful for that, because that's more than what most people have, especially in today. So, especially in today's time. So I'm grateful. And y'all, whatever it is, God has it under control, and he has a plan, and it's gonna work out for you. Whew. So that's it. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, this chat. Thank y'all for watching. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.